Hey guys, it's Olivie Blake, and this is me not writing. There's a lot you can't see from where you are, but my dog is actually asleep on the floor right here in this particular spot, and he will not share with me. So that's happening out of the frame. Also, I'm icing my foot. I don't know what happened to it, but I was in San Francisco walking around a lot, and I guess the hills got me. I don't know. I also don't know what's going on with this light here. We're just gonna see how this goes because this is my, oh my god, what was that? I don't know what's going on, but this is my allotted time for this. There's just, everything is reflecting. I don't know. Okay. I mean, it's not like you come here for like amazing cinematography, I hope. Anyway, I'm icing my foot. I guess we're gonna talk about some things. I have a couple of song recommendations for you because I recently met/interacted with some newer musicians. So recommending the song "History" by Noah Kenton and "Animal" by Wolves. So yeah, give those things a try. They're very different, but they're both relevant in that I like them. So, jumping right in, bearing in mind that my mood today is, it's like not the best. I mean, I did sort of get trapped while walking my dog because I can't walk on my foot, and then couldn't really do anything about it, and then kind of like got stuck there where I was for a while. And I have coffee, because I can't drink alcohol because I have a Brazilian today. Which is coincidentally the first day of my womanlies. I've had more fortuitous coincidences. Okay, so, hey Olivie, how do you kindly tell men they should vote? My boyfriend, white, privileged, 25, is finishing law school and enjoys talking politics daily, enough that for 5 years I incorrectly assumed he voted. I knew he didn't vote in the 2018 midterms because he forgot to send the ballot in, which led to an argument. This weekend he told me he's never voted before, ever, and I do not understand. This frustrates me so much. How does this even happen? P.S. Super excited to read one for my enemy. Well, that's a fun little add-on. I really hope you like it. All right. Listen, it sounds like you've been with your boyfriend for a while and, like, probably you love him. But there's something really fucked up about a guy who's not voting in this political climate. I'm sorry. Mr. Blake didn't vote either when I met him. And, but then the Trump and Hillary election happened, and you better believe he voted. I didn't tell him, he just did. Because you can't really look at what's going on around, especially, wait a minute, he's finishing law school, so he, like, fully understands the political climate. Like, that, he's definitely expected to understand what's going on around him. And he doesn't vote. There is just like a crazy lack of something going on. Like, I'm not really sure how you exist in the world right now and just like forget to mail in your ballot. I really don't know. That is so much privilege that I can't even begin to comprehend it. I will tell you that I think actually a lot of relationships are being very tested or at this political time. And again, I'm not saying break up with your boyfriend. What I'm saying is I don't think you have to be nice, I guess, is what I'm saying. I know he won't, like, maybe he won't listen to you if you're not nice about it, but in that case, why would you be nice about it? You know what I mean? Like, if he's not going to listen to you, I don't know. I'm not going to touch that. I am going to say that this is a very trying time for relationships, okay? Because there are, in fact, quite a lot of white men who their spouses or significant others who happen to be friends with me are becoming very alarmed by what they're discovering about their significant other. This is not just you. I actually had a friend come visit me from Michigan. Reminder, I live in LA. She flew in from Michigan because she was thinking about leaving her husband because she did not know all this time he was a Republican and he was considering voting for Trump. And she was like, I don't think that I can be with him if this happens. And I was like, yeah, I agree. There is a fundamental disconnect. There's something wrong. It's not that we can't have differences of opinion. It's not that we can't have like political sides. I would say that there used to be a time when there wasn't as like concrete a line between political parties in the United States anyway. But we are at a time when like the man you are choosing to be in your life, or woman, or whatever the situation is, had better give a fuck, you know? Like, this is not really a time to be apathetic. You, I assume, are too smart to be with someone who's just like, this is fine. This is fine. Like, all of this is fine. This national emergency, it's fine. The fact that there are now so many racist, sexist people who have been given a platform by the way our politics is right now. The people say things like, women should be forced to have children. That should be a law. And they're just saying it with no repercussions. There's just people who are dressing up as the KKK in their yearbook and are like, it was a costume. You know, like these are not the same thing, obviously. But this is sort of the time when you really see who someone is. I'm not going, again, I'm trying so hard to be like, I assume that he's, you know, hopefully good in bed or something. But, okay, how to tell him nicely? I don't know. If he can't see this himself, there was definitely a time when Mr. Blake and I used to argue about the fact that he had never voted before. And I was like, how can you not care? And he's like, well, I just feel like I can't actually affect any change, that my vote doesn't count, etc., etc., you know, the thing that everybody says. And then he kind of got over himself when he realized that his feeling that his vote didn't count was not at all important compared to the fact that if everyone believes that, then we end up with this government and it's a problem. And I'm relieved that I didn't have to tell him that. But this should sort of be something where, I don't know, if this guy isn't aware that what he does or doesn't do has consequences, I would be a little bit concerned about what his priorities are. Again, focus, Olivie, focus. How to tell him nicely. I can't do it. I really can't. I don't want to spare his feelings. I don't give a fuck. He needs to vote. This is not cool. This climate, this world that we live in, it is not cool. And if he can sit back and watch it happen, then I'm sorry. I don't like your boyfriend. I want to end on like a more positive note than that. I mean, clearly you're also upset about this. And if you're feeling like you're doubting whether or not this is a legitimate thing, I promise you it is, because many, many women are having these kinds of arguments with the men they're with, and it's kind of opening them up to like who they're with. It has definitely changed the way I see a lot of people in my life, which isn't great. I think the worst part about the way politics are right now is not so much the politicians who are in charge, but the way that my peers and the people that I know are behaving, and what people now feel is okay to say and to think, and it's troubling. It's really troubling. And for someone who is quite privileged, I think it is a remarkable character flaw if they exempt themselves from what's going on in the world. And maybe there's a way to have that conversation, to frame it as if, I don't know, look at the rights, look at your rights that are being challenged. If those were his rights, I highly doubt he'd just sit there not doing anything about it. I mean, if it, not to make it super dystopian, but like, there are super definitely men who want to tell us what to do with our bodies. They think that's perfectly fine. I think I read recently there is a state proposition that women who get abortions should get the death penalty. There is a lot of there's a lot of hypocrisy going on. I would go ahead and call your boyfriend a hypocrite right now. Not to his face. Well, I would say it to his face. You shouldn't say it to his face. Yeah, choose wisely the men that are in your life. Educate them as best you can. I guess try to make them understand what it's like to exist in your world. Help them to identify the way your world is different from theirs. But if you already had an argument and he doesn't really see what he should change. I don't know that there's a nice way to say it. I've loved fanfiction since I was 15, much older now, and I've always wanted to write some. I have these storylines and ideas floating around in my head, but actually writing a story feels so intimidating. Any tips for a fan who simply wants a creative outlet to balance their stressful life? Start by writing drabbles. In fanfiction, typically a drabble is like less than 1,000 words. Usually there's not really a plot. It's more like a trope, coffee shop scene, or one way to start is to take like a missing scene from canon. If you're just trying to flex your creativity, start small. Start with something, and then maybe you'll want to grow it, and then maybe it'll turn into something else. That's happened to me plenty of times. There have been a lot of stories that came out of the smallest concept, just a little spark of an idea. But the thing is, with all writing, it's practice. And so writing a long story is just more difficult. And you can certainly do it. And especially if you're just looking for a way to be creative, then yeah, just try writing something that's 500 words. That actually feels like a lot of work if you've never written creatively before. I remember that my chapters used to be about 2,000 words, and that was like about as much as I could do at a time, and it felt like a lot. And now my chapters are like 14,000, and it's crazy, and I should be fired. This is all a process of learning how things work and learning as you go. And you take a little spark of something where you thought, oh yeah, that's an interesting idea, and then just go with it. Just pick something manageable, achievable. There are lots of also prompt lists. I know I did one. I did the kiss prompts, which ended up taking me days, where it was just like different kinds of kisses, and then like, I don't know, people asked me for characters, and then I just wrote 5 lines. I said I was going to write 5 lines. I never do. I really need to work on brevity. I would recommend something like that. Just to get yourself started. And if you're not ready to share it yet, then don't. Feedback is a tricky business because it can be really encouraging and it can be addictive. You know, getting those review notifications in your inbox can be like really exciting and motivating, but it can also be really scary. My very first review was actually quite negative, and I kept writing anyway because I couldn't believe someone had actually read what I wrote. But depending on how sensitive you are to criticism, be aware that it does happen. So if you want to write for yourself first, you can do that. Anyway, just try it. Just get started and see how it goes. And that could be your thing, or maybe fan art could be your thing, or doing like edits on Tumblr could be your thing. I don't know. If you're just looking for something that gets your creativity going, that's really important. I really believe in creativity and giving yourself something. Finding beauty in the world. It sounds so corny, but I really think it's important. So I encourage you to give that a try, and share it whenever you're ready. Just start and see how it goes. Oh, this is a long one. Okay. Hi, Olivie. Looking for a bit of advice here. I'm in the middle of writing a story that's gotten much bigger than anything I've written before. I have 2 main issues I was hoping you might have some advice on. Okay. First, as to be expected, I'm getting some hate in my inbox and critiques I don't agree with. Most of the reviews themselves are very kind, and while in an ideal world everyone would love everything I write, I know that's not realistic, but I don't know how to handle the urge to explain myself every single time. Like I should walk that person through my exact writing process in each instance so they'll see I have a plan. I overwhelmingly feel like I should justify and explain myself. This is very familiar to me. This is a sensation I am just deeply familiar with, that every fanfiction author is familiar with. We all get hate. The funny thing is that the more popular your story is, the more hate you'll get. I actually have tended to notice that the more negative reviews I'm getting, that if I get a slew of negative comments, it usually means that that story has popped up and been recommended on a blog or in a Facebook group or something. I don't know what it is. People love to hate on stuff that other people like. Humanity, man, it's a mess. In terms of feeling the need to justify it, I get that completely. I'll tell you the truth. I used to look forward to every fanfiction review that I got in my inbox, and now I have compiled them all into a folder, and I only check them when I'm like in an okay mood, because they do have a kind of ridiculous power to ruin your day, or at least ruin your productivity. I've definitely gotten to a point where some things are just so frustrating that if I look at it at the wrong time, or if it comes to me at a bad moment, I'm not going to take it well. So I check far less frequently to see what people are saying. It's just something I've had to do for my mental health. It's not as if, I can't handle constructive criticism. I don't think a lot of people on the internet really even know what constructive criticism is, much less have the credentials for constructive criticism. But it's more, people will show up and they'll say shitty things about like the characters or about the way the plot is going, and it's like, okay, well, I see what you're saying, but also you don't know the whole story yet, and you don't know why I've done this, and apparently you've missed key details that I have put here for you, and so we're just going to fundamentally disagree. And I will say that there are definitely some comments that make me angry enough that I do draft a response. I never ever send it though. I don't think it's worth it. I don't think getting into an argument with someone on the internet is ever worth it. I'm not a big fan of arguing for argument's sake. In my world, I just don't like to engage when I don't think the other person is really being reasonable anyway, which many people on the internet are not. One thing I would say is, you're always going to feel the need to justify it, but I don't necessarily think it's worth your time to do so. If you want, you can do what I do, which is, very rarely I will write up a response as if I'm going to say something, and usually after a few minutes of toying with it and wondering how I could devastate them the most, with my impressive planning and the skill that I bring to the craft, eventually I no longer feel it's necessary to send. It's kind of like when I want to buy something but I'm not really sure I want to spend the money, I carry it around the store with me for a while, and usually by the end I'm like, I don't really need this, and I put it back. So that's kind of how I feel about responding to these kinds of reviews. I fully understand the impulse to want to defend yourself. There are people who aren't going to get it, and I think it's more frustrating to you to try to make them get it. It's sort of unproductive for you, most likely, and really better that you just have faith in what you're writing and what you're doing, and, maybe there's some things you can take under advisement, there's things you can take into consideration, but in the end, it's your story, and not everybody's going to get it, not everybody's going to like it, but they can click out of the box and find another story that someone else wrote for them. There are new stories friggin' every day that are maybe more to their liking. And the second issue, this is related, is that I'm starting to feel weirdly defensive of my characters, as in if someone says my lead female is weak or sad or needs to get it together, this is so familiar. I want to defend her instead of just continuing to write her development and letting that speak for itself. Any suggestions? Nothing beyond what I just said. This happens all the time. This is the big problem I had with Nobility. This is also the problem I had with Paradox. People are really dicks about female characters, especially. People have a lot of concepts about how people should behave. And, just because some people are criticizing something doesn't mean they're right. Someone recently said something, honestly, I didn't read it all that closely, but there was a review on Commoner's Guide recently that said all these characters are, extremely selfish. And I was like, yeah, they are. They're in their early 20s and they're idiots. And the whole point of this story is that we're watching them develop. So yeah, you can think they're selfish, but why would I write a story about a perfect character? Why would I start with a character who already knows what's going on and makes all the correct decisions? It doesn't make sense. And either they're going to enjoy where the story goes and how the character develops, or they're not, and then they'll leave. Luckily, I have enormous word counts that probably scare people away anyway, so that's just an extra perk. I absolutely get why you feel this way, and there are going to be people you never convince. That's definitely been the case. Some of my, there's been a lot of my stuff where I just never convince them. People are just like, well, I still don't like this character. Okay, fine. You probably won't like me either, and that's okay. Plenty of people don't, so I think if we're really trying to be true to writing and to fiction that portrays the world as it is, then yeah, of course there are going to be people who don't like things. People really hate to see themselves in stories. They really hate to see their own weakness reflected back at them in characters. I don't think they're perfectly aware of that. I mean, the truth about this is that there's a lot of people who are saying nothing. There's a lot of people who are appreciating your work and saying something, which is great. And then there's way more people who are just reading in silence and not sharing their feelings at all, but they're there. And then there's those really loud voices who really feel the need to tell you what they don't like. So, I mean, I look at like the best books I've ever read on Goodreads, and they've got, whatever, people who hated them, and that's just what it is. And for some reason, when people really hate something, they decide to be really vocal about it. And because we are creatives, we are artists, we are putting our insides on the page, it hurts when people don't see what we put there for them, or how hard we worked on it, or how much it means to us. We'll never be able to explain how long we tried to get one sentence right. I friggin' bleed over my computer screen to write, whatever, to get some reviews that say, I hate so-and-so, and like, I hate this whole plot, but I don't know the writing's okay. And like, it's just what it is. And you really have to love the process of creating the art, because the outcome is not always great. Every now and then I get these really amazing ones. It's just like, I've always wondered like how to put this feeling into words, and you did it for me. And that is such a gift. It's such a gift. And, even a comment like that can sometimes not be enough to offset a negative comment, which is again why I've done this thing where I just don't check them when I'm feeling a little bit vulnerable. Don't get caught up in dealing with the negative stuff, because I think, for one thing, people are misinterpreted really easily. I know I misinterpret people all the time, and you never know whose feelings you're going to hurt if you reply in a way that they then misinterpret. It's hard to communicate on the internet, it really is. You never know if you're going to say something that really brings someone down. And, I wish a lot of reviewers would think about that, but you're the writer, so you think about that. Just keep in mind that, just be conscious of the fact that you're putting yourself on the page, and it hurts when people react negatively to that, or if they can't see the fact that your characters are extensions of yourself, because they absolutely are. They for sure are. I'm so sensitive about my characters and when people say mean things about them. But yeah, you are the artist. You have to just continue making your art, and if there's something that gets in the way of that, you're responsible for overcoming it however you need to. I don't think that it's practical to address every single one of these people. This also might be new for you. You kind of get desensitized to it over time, a little. Not hugely, but a little. I don't know if that's good advice, but you're not alone, for sure. That is the consequence of being creative and pursuing something that means it's personal, that everything you create is personal. This is not an Excel spreadsheet that you just put sort of mindless time into. This is something that you put pieces of yourself in, and that's why it hurts when people don't get it. But people will never get it, and you just have to try to reach the ones who will. So yeah, I am going to Iowa this week. Oh, dog's up. Well, I gotta go. Let's see. I don't know if I have anything new to tell you. I'm going to be starting. Dylan. I'm starting a new book that I actually have to finish this month. I kind of did a dumb thing and promised a couple of agents it was like almost there when it is not. So going to be very busy this month. Hopefully I'll get to maybe read you a little bit of that. It's a high fantasy. It's kind of basically the White Queen, but Moana. So yeah, do let me know if you've read One for My Enemy. Also, if you've read it and you could leave me an Amazon review, that would be great. I would love it. It would mean literally everything to me. But anyway, this has been me, Olivie Blake, not writing, and I'll see you next week.